On August 4th, 1990, two hikers near Calvine in Scotland took a photograph of a mysterious diamond-shaped flying object hovering in the middle of the sky. And for 32 years, that image, dubbed the Calvine photo, disappeared from the public eye, becoming the object of speculation, theories, and myth. But now, the groundbreaking image has finally resurfaced, thanks to the efforts of British journalist David Clarke. After 13 years of research, Clarke, who has worked as a curator for Britain's National Archives and is currently an associate professor at Sheffield Hallam University, found that former Royal Air Force press officer Craig Lindsay had held onto a copy of the last remaining original print. And it's amazing. In the photo, one of a series of 6 that the hikers reportedly took, a diamond-shaped object can be seen flying in the sky, while a fighter jet can be spotted in the background not too far from it. Amazing footage. Now, this is the first time the public has had access to this elusive image, which is fantastic. And it has been described as the best UFO photo ever taken, and I concur. Now, here's the story. Back in 1990, the two hikers brought the photo to Scotland's Daily Record newspaper for publication. But instead, the newspaper handed the image over to the British Ministry of Defense, which kept it secret until now. Now, the Daily Record's picture editor at the time sent them to Craig Lindsay, who was the RAF press officer in Scotland. He passed the print to the Ministry of Defense in London, and the Ministry of Defense in London then asked him to obtain the negatives. So he went back to the Daily Record, asked the Daily Record to send the negatives to London, which they duly did. Quite amazingly, they didn't make copies, and that's when they disappeared. Now, Clarke writes, and this guy's a hero. I mean, come on. Clarke writes that the information linked to the photo, together with the image, should have normally been released by now, as it's been 30 years past. So this should have been declassified long ago. But the identities of the two hikers who took the photos are still unknown and are not expected to be revealed before 2072. Who knew that the powers that be could hide actual information from you that long? If you think that the governments around the world are there to protect you, well, I hope this is an eye-opening experience in the fact that they've been hiding information in plain sight for decades. Now, and who are these two hikers? They probably are no longer with us, in my opinion. So there's that. Now, oddly, despite all the publicity, the two chaps who took the photographs have never come forward, and well, that's quite telling. The negatives have never, ever been seen either since they reached the Ministry of Defense. And the Ministry of Defense says that they returned them to the Daily Record, but the Daily Record says that they never received them and they have no idea what happened to them. So there are a lot of questions to be answered about the greatest photographic evidence for extraterrestrial life or technology, however you want to look at it. Clearly, there could be government officials flying that UFO that could be from 100,000 years ago in the past. Now, while we don't know what happened to the men who took the photo, what we do know is what they described happened 32 years ago. And according to what Lindsay told Clarke, the two men were working as chefs in a hotel in Pitlochry, in the Scottish Highlands when one summer evening they decided to go for a walk in the hills near Calvine. While out walking, the two spotted a huge diamond-shaped flying object moving silently in the sky. They saw this thing in the sky and it scared them, according to Clark. They ran into some woodland to sort of keep their heads down, and they heard this jet coming down into the valley, and then 2 minutes later, it returned and started circling around the object. And that's when they took the photographs. Whether what the two men saw on that summer evening in 1990 was actually a UFO, as the two men thought then, is still unclear. But based on the definition of an unidentified flying object, clearly this object is unidentified. And with a technology that is unidentified on planet Earth. Now, it follows that this is either a genuine UFO or that construction or manipulation used to create this effect occurred in front of the camera. It's certainly not a hoax. And Lindsay himself also is convinced that the image is not a hoax. But while Clark admits the photo is by far the best UFO photograph he has ever seen, the journalist says he doesn't believe the object in the image is actually an alien flying saucer. Sadly, and I quote, "I do not think that the mysterious aircraft arrived from another galaxy," Clark wrote in a piece published in the Daily Mail. "I believe it was man-made somewhere in a secret hangar. And whatever it was remains on the secret list and is highly secretive." Clark thinks that the mysterious object could have been the Aurora, a top-secret reconnaissance aircraft that the U.S. was rumored to be building in the 1980s. Although there was never any evidence of such a project, and the U.S. government has consistently denied Aurora's existence. Although there has never been any substantial evidence that it was ever built or flown, there have been numerous unexplained sightings and incidents in both the U.S. and the U.K. over the years that have fueled the Aurora myth. Though Clark is 100% sure that someone, somewhere in the military establishment in Britain or the U.S., knows exactly what the photographs show, the journalist also admits that it's possible the image could be anything, including a prank. The other option is that the whole thing is a practical joke, a prank that got out of hand, according to Clark. And the whole purpose of publishing this story is hopefully to get either the photographers themselves to come forward or someone who knows the photographers to come forward as well. Or anyone that knows about the circumstances to come forward and solve the mystery of the greatest UFO photo that was hidden for decades, the Calvine photo. And thank you, Mr. Clark. And thank you to the man who held on to this photo. And it's not from the negatives. This is just a photo of it. And, well, now it's public record. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss-poor performance. Let me know what you think of the Calvine photo. Do you think it's a hoax? Do you think this is the same type of craft that Bob Lazar described? He saw back in the late 80s near Area 51? I think so. What say you? Be safe. We love you. Yeah.